We all know Mario, and we all know Jumpman, and we all know they are one and the same. But once upon a time, during the dawn of gaming as a medium, there was no Mario, only Jumpman, and he wasn't exactly the most recognizable name in his game of origin. Whereas Donkey Kong became a pop culture icon in no time, to the point the name has now been retained for more than 40 years, even if the character is by all accounts not even the same ape, Jumpman was very swiftly scrubbed from history and replaced with Mario. In fact, I'm willing to bet it happened even faster than you thought, although that does depend on whether you look only at the name or also the entire being of what makes Mario. Fortunately, I have the answers for both. But let's start with a little history lesson, a look at the world before Jumpman was even a thing. Because while it feels very ingrained into Nintendo fans' minds that Jumpman was Mario's original name, there is definitely some contention on whether you can actually full on say that. While it's obvious that is what ended up happening, what definitely makes the original name feel less intentional is that it wasn't actually Shigeru Miyamoto's vision at all. Arcade Donkey Kong was created based on a failed attempt to develop a licensed Popeye game, which suffered from technical issues, prompting Miyamoto to rework it into a game we would eventually come to know as Donkey Kong. He himself designed the characters, and he also named Donkey Kong, picking the name because he thought the word donkey was a synonym for idiot. Nintendo of America staff later corrected him on that, but Miyamoto decided to keep the name anyway. Several other names were also considered, like Custom Kong, Kong Chase, Funny Kong, Kong the Kong, Kong Boy, Kong Man, Kong Fighter, Jack Kong, Bill Kong, Steel Kong, Giant Kong, Big Kong, Kong Down, Kong Dong, Mr. Kong, Wild Kong, Rookie Kong, Kong Holiday, and even Funky Kong, but the only name that managed to stick was Donkey Kong. Now, why am I telling you this? Because it shows Miyamoto spent a lot of time working on a name for his titular character, which is very interesting to know when you look at the history of Mario's name. For the vast majority of the development of Donkey Kong, Mario went by the name Osan, which is a Japanese word that straight up means middle-aged man. It is effectively the male equivalent of the name Lady, which is Pauline's name in this game. Over time, it changed to very briefly become Mr. Video Game, then shortened to Mr. Video, which would have been one of the worst names in Nintendo history if that had stuck, before eventually becoming Jumpman. At least, in the Western arcade instructions, which are basically manuals for arcade games. In Japan, Jumpman was simply called Player, with the arcade instructions not using any name for the character, meaning that while we have all lived in a world where we thought it was normal Mario's name was originally Jumpman, that is only because Nintendo of America thought this guy needs a name. Miyamoto did not end up creating a name for Jumpman like he did Donkey Kong. In fact, very swiftly after the release of Donkey Kong, Nintendo of Japan got into contact with Nintendo of America and told them, "We want this name changed." But for the arcade version of Donkey Kong, it was already too late. Proof of this is a flyer that was published mere weeks after the release of the arcade cabinets, which called Jumpman Little Mario instead. The first instance of Mario being called, well, Mario. This name was decided, as you might know, by Nintendo of America president Minoru Arakawa and warehouse manager Don James, who decided to name him after Nintendo's reclusive landlord Mario Segale. The idea was that he was so reclusive they didn't know what he looked like, which they figured might mean he looked like Jumpman. Either way, it's crazy to think that this original name, Jumpman, which Nintendo officially used for like a few weeks max, has become a worldwide known name and is so often referenced by even Nintendo themselves at this point. But even a year after the release of Donkey Kong, when Donkey Kong Jr. came out, the name Jumpman was already gone and the human character that had now captured Donkey Kong is referred to as Mario for the very first time, at least in Japan. So yeah, Mario's name doesn't hail from Super Mario Bros. Or even the Mario Bros. Without the Super. It hails from Donkey Kong Jr. officially, but if Nintendo had their way, he would have been Mario from the very get-go. They were a few weeks too late, and that has led to 40-year-long significance of the name Jumpman. Now, whether modern Mario is still to be considered the original Jumpman is certainly up for discussion, especially since now has not only the original Donkey Kong been replaced with a newer Donkey Kong that isn't the same ape, DK Bonanza also appears to create a gap between the original Lady and modern Pauline. However, Nintendo's official reading has always been that Mario and Jumpman are the same. And at this moment in time there is nothing to concretely disprove of it, even if it makes the timeline look a little wonky currently. But let's get back to Mario's big transition for a moment, because while his name became Mario extremely swiftly, other key elements of his being took a while longer. Like his design, for example. While the overalls, the cap, the mustache and the slightly rounder build have always been there, they were not quite fully there yet. Originally, his overalls were red, for example, something that was also quickly altered following the release, roughly around the same time as his name. Illustrator Xavier Leslie Kabanga is the first to depict Mario like this, including his gloves too, although it is unknown whether he came up with this design or Nintendo told him to draw him like that. It appears more likely Kabanga created this himself though, seeing as official artwork for Donkey Kong Jr. and even Mario Bros. Does not consistently depict Mario with this same color scheme, even if it's already closer to the final result than the original Donkey Kong artwork was. It wouldn't be until Super Mario Bros. That we'd get a design that can truly be considered Mario. All the elements are present now, the only thing that isn't quite there yet is the overall art style of the series in general, but in essence this is how Mario still looks today. Another element that is certainly part of Mario's current profile but was not there yet at the start is his profession. Sure, Mario being a plumber basically never ties into the games, beyond the general existence of warpipes I guess, but it is still without a doubt one of his key traits. He's basically always introduced as a plumber. This too was not the original vision though. Originally, Mario was supposed to be a carpenter instead. This occupation is mentioned on several flyers and other materials, including the one that calls him Mario for the first time. While I can't find a source on who actually decided this, whether it was Miyamoto himself or another Nintendo of America creation, it is known that Miyamoto's idea was always for Mario to be an everyday man with an ordinary job, with him preferring ordinary people doing heroic deeds for society over some perfect destined hero. So I don't think he objected against the concept. At least, not until he required Mario to have a different job in order to make the game design of Mario Bros. Work. And since this game was set in a sewer, Mario and Luigi were plumbers from now on, ridding the sewage system of pests. This has obviously since stuck, probably because starting with the next game, Super Mario Bros., Mario's occupation didn't really matter anymore. And as Miyamoto puts it, the scenario dictates Mario's role. Okay, so we're nearly there. We have almost everything that makes Mario Mario. The name, the outfit, his profession, all of which actually hail from different games, but there is one more change Mario had to make to truly become himself. His Italian heritage. The Mamma Mias of the world, if you will. You may think, seeing as his name is Mario, that his Italian origins were always present, but that's actually not the case. Like I said, he is named after a real person who just happened to be American Italian, but Miyamoto, or Nintendo of Japan in general, was not involved with that at all. It wasn't a creative decision to make Mario have an Italian name. It was a localization decision that was then retroactively applied to Japan as well. As such, despite carrying the Mario name throughout Donkey Kong Jr., Mario is not yet Italian at this point in time. That too is a product of Mario Bros, and once again, it is basically the formula where gameplay dictates scenario and scenario decides Mario's role. The gameplay required a sewer-like setting that dedicated the scenario that it was set in New York, from where Mario was altered to be Italian-American. It's that simple really, but it at least means the idea of Mario being Italian does hail from Miyamoto himself, even if he didn't name the character. Now, it is worth mentioning that while Mario being Italian does as such predate Super Mario Bros., which is often considered the true start of the Mario franchise, there is not really any evidence to suggest Mario was actually still Italian at this time. After all, like Miyamoto said, Mario switches roles in the blink of an eye, and now that the setting of the game was the fantasy Mushroom Kingdom, him being Italian-American doesn't make any sense. Which is probably why this fact was mentioned nowhere in the promotional material or manual of the game. Him being a plumber still is, him being Italian not at all. And so, name notwithstanding, it is possible this would have slowly been moved into the back of general knowledge had it not been for a certain man named Charles Martinet. Prior to his introduction as Mario's voice actor in Mario Teaches Typing, Mario spoke with an American accent in cartoons and games like Hotel Mario. It wasn't until Martinet got the job that Italian phrases, accents and mannerisms started to become part of Mario's characterization. And so, you could say that Charles Martinet is the reason Mario is still considered Italian, because his heritage was certainly becoming less important during this time. Credit where credit is due though, According to Martinet himself, he didn't come up with the idea to give Mario an Italian accent. He came into the auditions and was asked to do an Italian accent, which were then sent to Nintendo for approval. Which means that we don't actually know who decided Mario should have an Italian accent when speaking, rather than the American one he had had up until that time. It is possible this order came straight from Nintendo. It's also possible the casting or recording engineers actually thought this was a good idea. It could even be someone at Interplay Productions, which were the developers of Mario Teaches Typing. Point being, we don't know, but I do feel confident in saying that this decision might have saved Mario's Italian heritage from becoming lost or at least becoming less relevant, like his plumber occupation has become. And there you have it, the steps that made Jumpman Mario over time. Which of these do you think is the most important change? Share it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing. If you really want to support me, you can now become a channel member to get all kinds of fun perks and help me keep bringing these videos to your doorstep every week. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.